listening to the PODI-Cast.
All right, welcome back to the PODI-Cast. I'm Christy. This is Tom.
Hey.
And we got Mike from PodiBoys.
Hello, people.
All right, I know Mike from the first time I did a huge competition in Breathe, at Breathe in Calgary. When I saw this guy throw down, I didn't know what I was looking at anymore. Like everything that I thought of, like from our scene, and I saw Mike, I'm just like, okay, my eyes are glued. I gotta watch what he's doing all the time. Like, this is great. No, I didn't record or anything, but thank you. Thank you for coming to the podcast. I've always wanted to, tell you that.
It's my pleasure, and I'm glad that I can be of some inspiration there.
Yeah,
I have to remember kind of like which competition was that, because like we had so many competitions throughout the years, and it's just like, man, which ones was it? Is it
was that like one of
the West Coast?
Yeah, it was the West Coast.
Okay,
yeah.
No, I was definitely feeling pretty strong on that. It was a really fun competition, and it was the first time I was actually able to compete with everybody else, because over the years it was always, Breathe staff and PODI putting together competitions, and you just don't want to have any type of conflict of interest when we're running the competitions and having us compete with everybody else, because then it's like, oh yeah, you go ahead and you win. It's like, oh yeah, well, he paid off the judges, because there's the judges.
Like you designed the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Didn't you do like a tiebreaker with somebody, and you had to take off your shoe or tie your lace?
It was a three-way tie between, I believe it was myself, Ruben, and Jonathan. Jonathan was up from California.
Yeah, that's right.
And Ruben Corlin from out in Saskatchewan. And the tiebreaker came down to us balancing on top of our 8-foot bar set, and we'd gone through like all of the ringers, like, oh yeah, just go ahead and turn 360 on the bar, squat down, squat back up, go 1 foot, squat down, squat back up, and all that stuff. And then they're like, okay, like they're all just too good. Like, what are we gonna do? Well, they're just like, okay, well, you gotta untie your shoe and then retie your shoelace, and that'd be fine if everybody had their shoelaces out, but like for me, I always tuck my shoelaces in because I don't want them flopping around. So I had to untuck my shoelaces, untie them, and then retie them. But by doing that, I was like, I wobbled off, and then I was like, damn it, I had to save myself at that point.
My memory doesn't serve me right then. I thought you won that one.
Oh no!
In my mind, you won it.
Not quite, but yeah, that was the deciding factor between it was either second or third. So then I just ended up getting fourth place. Yeah. So I was like, damn it, that sucks. But I got silver, got second in speed at that one. And then Jonathan ended up getting first, and it was just such a fun event because it was the first time interacting with some of the Cali community. Yeah. And it actually inspired me to continue on with that qualifier and go down to California and to go to the final, which was just nice to interact with everybody. But I ended up like busting my foot pretty bad on a wall splat. I was trying to go for like this level to level concrete, but the ledge was just underhang, and then it was like all cobble rock underneath, and then another ledge. So basically I beamed it right underneath of the ledge, hit the cobble, rolled my ankle, and then basically just like had my foot flat up against the wall and then my heel on the ground. So I just like struck it, and it actually sheared. No! It's like the thallus that connects the heel joint together, and it went like completely undiagnosed for a good like several months until I ended up going to because I just thought like I just rolled my ankle really bad.
Yeah.
Right.
But because that connective tissue doesn't have any nerve endings on it, you like
Right.
it people don't know that they've blown it out.
Hmm.
So I was just walking around with a heel that was trying to heal itself, and it was like just healing in weird places and then shearing off again, and like it was just a terrible
Right.
terrible experience, and ended up having to tape it all together and basically immobilize it for the longest time until it fused
Yeah.
again.
Wow.
But man, yeah, like that definitely put me through the ringer. But I still really enjoyed being able to go down and see that competition. I was actually able to judge some of the style
How cool
for
is
that.
that?
Yeah, it was really cool. It just ended up approaching me. It was like, oh, we need an extra judge. Are you down? And through all my work with I think it was Virtual Style League that Davis put together, where people would go head to head. It was like
Right.
something that he ended up envisioning from like Cali Duels, if you remember that.
I don't actually.
No, I don't.
Yeah, it was like an online Facebook group where people would challenge each other to post a line, and then everybody would vote on who they thought did their line the best.
Right.
Sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially that's what we did, but we ended up bringing in a more strict rubric, and then we would assign judges for certain categories. So then we'd have our rubric, we'd go to that, and then we'd kind of compare and go from there. And just like from all that experience, and then also some of the experience from just judging over at all of our dupe jams in Calgary. It gave me a little bit of confidence jumping into doing that. So yeah, it was a fun time, really.
Oh, right on. That's a really good story there. Action packed, actually.
Yeah.
Is that your only injury that you've suffered, or like how
I
do you
wish.
do? Yeah. Okay. Okay. What else? Just a short list of what else and how you deal with it. Like, do you go to a chiropractor? Do you ignore it? Like, what's your claim to fame on injury?
I have to like think back to all of my injuries at this point, because
Okay.
it's plentiful, and as it is, I'm like, man, lucky to be as good as I am right now than what I could otherwise have been.
No.
Like even from like a young age, I had broken my collarbone, my arm, my leg, cracked open my head. It was a very accident-prone child growing
And we
up.
do parkour, right? Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
If anything, it's like it once I started doing after doing all that, then I was just like, okay, well maybe I should just like tamper it down. But going into parkour, it at least teaches you how to perceive a fall, and how to do those risks and those benefits and mitigate it. So I would assume that, hey, if I 5 years old had some sort of parkour knowledge, then chances are I probably would have done a lot better off. But falling off a tree forward onto a stump, there's only so much you can do. Say goodbye to
First
leg,
attempt.
and then rolling out of bed onto a table, there goes collarbone.
Oh
So
man.
on and so
There you
forth.
go.
So yeah. And then other than that, it was like running headlong into a tree with a sled because my brother was piloting it, and then he jumped ship and just threw me right into it. I'm like, man. Yeah. So yeah, like a lot of injuries growing up, and it definitely made all the asymmetries kind of come out. So as soon as you start building muscle mass around asymmetries, it's pulling you in weird ways. So it's something that really takes a lot of work to overcome and maintain, because now you have to really make sure that, hey, you don't tense up in certain muscle groups, or else you're going to like pull something out all the time. So
Right.
it's been an
Yeah.
ongoing challenge with that, but thankfully, I've been working with a couple of trainers. I was working with a guy named Hermes, a couple for the past, it was about a year, and then he got into the pandemic, and then everything closed down, and then he went on to streaming. What was it? Oh man, Apex. That's right. Yeah, he was like getting like he was getting like top in Canada in Apex. So he was just like, oh wait, I can actually do this really well. So then I ended up getting on to with a trainer. His name is Mark Colado. And we've been working together all the way through pandemic so far, and man,
Wow.
he's been kicking my ass, and it's been fantastic. He's been really working on the foundations and really building out the skeletal strength of everything that I'm doing, and it's really starting to transfer in to the way that I'm moving and feeling confident in my movement.
Right. So this program is all like tailored to like help you, still focus on parkour specifically.
Yeah. So yeah, he's seeing all my stuff, and he's just like, holy crap, that's awesome. And definitely put a few goals out to him with getting back to my original PRs that I set back when I first ended up getting on to Tom Taylor's workout program.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's out of the UK, and he's the man behind Ed Scott and Tim Champion. So he runs an online personal training program, and so I ended up getting onto that, and definitely saw improvements with the way things were going. But just because of the nature of it being online, it's hard to make sure that, hey, every rep that you're doing is with the proper form, and
Correct.
like it's not as easy to push through certain parts, because you're the only person there, and it's like, oh yeah, you just get stuck in this mentality of like, oh yeah, it's pretty hard, I could probably lift this, but like, I don't want to hurt myself, and then be alone in a gym, and
Right.
have weights crashing down.
Yeah.
So you start playing it a little bit safer, instead of being able to like push through and do what you can. So yeah, with that, it's like it's easy to also develop bad form throughout that whole process. So if you start out and you don't know which muscles you should be engaging when, then you can start loading things in really weird ways.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, if there's anybody that's wanting to kind of get into a little bit more of the competitive scene, or start approaching this from a more athletic point of view, to definitely start with a personal trainer, or go and gain that knowledge, because there's a lot of really good online resources. I don't really remember exactly which ones I would go pick, but you kind of have to that's the thing with the personal trainer, is that they've already done all of that knowledge gathering.
Yeah.
So it saves you time from having to go through the pain of figuring things out. So yeah, like he set me up on some goals, get the PRs back, and then I remember talking to him about World Chase Tag, because that was something that between Tyrion, Ben, Tyler, Ruben, and Davis, that we wanted to put together kind of a Team Canada for World Chase Tag. So we actually developed that submission and put them in, but they're just mainly focused on the American scene right now. So that anything's possible at this point, but that's definitely it's definitely one of those things that definitely striving towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially seeing all the people that end up on there, like
Yeah.
through all the competitions and all the jams that I've had out to. I definitely met a lot of really cool guys, and a lot of them have ended up on World Chase Tag. My goodness, like Seth Rugi, and this is what happens when you're trying to name drop all of a sudden. Can't get all the names out, and then Frank. Unfortunately, I forget people's last names.
Well, I'm a big fan of the show, though. Like, to see all my athletes like try and tag each other. I love it when they post it on their Instagram too, and I'm just like, yeah, it's cool. It's just a little clip. That's all you need sometimes, right? But it's great. I love that whole idea. So that's cool. Good on you for putting a submission.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to see Canada in that. Canada tends to get overlooked in things. Even something like Ninja Warrior, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not really Canadian one.
There's just so many like hidden beasts in Canada.
Yeah.
Right.
Rodrigo out in Victoria. I remember him coming through. It was either our first Duke Jam or else it was like our last PKAB, and just taking the most gnarly drop down in Century Gardens. Like it's probably like a good 14 to 16 foot drop to like a wooden deck, and he took that during the middle of like a speed comp. And we're just like, what? It was unfortunate that he didn't win, because like that wasn't quite the fastest route, but man, it was so cool.
No doubt.
And it would have been fantastic that he pulled that off and like gotten podium on that one. But man, super big beast. And then like even like Davis getting into the NAPC circuit there was big, and as well as seeing Ruben out there.
No doubt.
It just goes to show it's like, Canada can definitely step it up and come around. So there's definitely a lot of untapped potential, if you will.
Yeah, not just like the talent is there, just it's the spotlight. Not so much.
Spotlight. Yeah, you're right.
But out of like any of the competitions, I think that will probably come out of the woodwork, Chase Tag is probably the most intuitive from like a perspective, like a spectator perspective, because it's just so intuitive. Like, oh, the game is this person's trying to tag that person, and then there's a bunch of stuff in the way. Okay, they just gotta go.
Like reach and escape, like
classic
parkour,
childhood,
right? Like
it's like the course I find is like really, really intelligently designed in that, like I mean, like it does end up becoming like the cat chasing the mouse around like the circle sometimes, which does it's not as interesting. I like that they did put like a lot of breaks in that, so they have to do some movement. But it definitely becomes like a sprint around the side for the most part. But when they start like getting intricate and start trying to juke people out with all the different obstacles, I'm like, man, that's so cool. Especially the way that they can just spot that line that's going to get them out of trouble.
No doubt.
In the midst of everything. I'm like, man, that's so smart. Like there's such a level of intelligence with that, but at the same time, it's just like it's just as easy as you're just chasing a person. So it's like it's really accessible, and I think that that's definitely something that will bring parkour up in a way that that other competitions have struggled to. Like when you look at like a FICE event, like a FIG event, it's just like the course design is, you can tell it wasn't. I mean, like I don't want to rack on it too much, but like it's just it's not. When I look at it, I'm like, it's just not very inspiring, because it seems like the person started with, there's a move I want to put here, I'm just going to put this move. Whereas,
Right.
you know, in a parkour gym or else like in any other type of speed comp, it's very much, you know, you set these boundaries and then you allow the person to use their expertise and their
Yeah.
experience and their creativity to find the fastest line
Yeah.
instead of just like you just run straight. If you just so happen to be an Olympic sprinter that happens to run on bars, then you'll probably do fine.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, there has to be more than one route
mhm.
available.
Yeah, like I was thinking like, oh man, maybe they got it. Maybe they actually started to figure it out. Maybe they started to talk to people like in the community about what would be cool in a speed comp when they had like I think it was in Japan when they had their comp, and then they had like this multi-tier like descent
Cool.
through a structure, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's actually kind of cool. Like that would actually be really fun. Like, have you ever been in like one of those play places where you have like that
Right.
webbing and then you
Yeah.
jump down and you're just like, whoa. So it kind of reminds me of that. Like you're just the snaking through this, and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. But then it just gets back into the same monotony of just like a straight line sprint, and I'm like,
Oh,
it's not
Right.
exciting. It's not
It
exciting. And then they throw the freestylers on there too, and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Oh."
your
They're
brain.
trying to get the camera around, and you're like, and everybody stops too. There's no connections. It's like, what defines parkour in my eyes is like the ability to just keep moving.
Hmm.
And like in freestyle, it's like every inch of space is used space, be that flat ground, be it a corner, be it whatever. So, you know, when you watch like a really sick line, it's like there's intent behind every single movement.
Right.
And at least within the comps scene that I've seen with like in FICE events is that, you know, people aren't penalized for just taking a dead stop and then hitting like a double. And you're just like, no, like, you know, it'd be cool if you did something into the double. Yeah, that'd be really cool, wouldn't it? But I don't know. That's just my opinion on the matter. It's just like if everybody's going to have their own comps and their own rules for comps, it's definitely going to increase the viewership of parkour, and at least the idea of parkour. It's just to how
Right.
much of a detriment on, you know, how it's viewed, I'd say.
Yeah.
Good
That
call.
it's like, okay, are we able to attract, you know, the biggest names to these types of these types of competitions, and, you know, is the comp sick? Like, is it actually really cool to watch? So far, I haven't really been all that inspired to, like, if I looked at that comp and then I was just like, oh yeah, like that actually looks like a sick time, because they basically just like ripped off Hop the Block, and that was cool because like there was a lot of different. It wasn't just a straight line sprint towards the end for the most part.
Mhm.
Sure, it was in a straight line, but the the way that the course progressed was very, yeah. It was designed by parkour people. Let's just say,
Right.
You could
instead
tell.
of like, hey, so we're gonna just take a little bit of Ninja Warrior in here and throw some bars here or there, and then make
Oh,
people
yeah,
to
yeah.
U-turn at the end and then run back.
Trying to
So
do their own thing or something.
yeah, like they definitely need to develop their own branding, and that's just
Mhm.
part of them pitching it to the Olympic Committee. But you
Really?
know, from a bystander's perspective on the way that those competitions kind of come about, I just don't find it very inspiring, and I feel that, you know, competitions like NAPC are really inspiring because you feel the gravitas and the energy in the room
Yeah, you do.
when you're
Right.
there, and you feel it even on the stream,
Yeah.
because it's just so well produced over the years. Like I remember for like probably up until NAPC 5. So for like 4 years, I had just solely watch the live stream because I was always working on the weekends
Yeah.
as an instructor over at Breathe during that time. So then what we'd do is we'd just end up getting a projector out or getting it up on the TV, and then we just end up watching that. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it was like a couple of years where like Josh and Jovi ended up getting into the qualifiers and were on that stream, and I was like, this is so sick, like this is amazing. And
Yeah.
watching those guys just run, and yeah, like it just looked like a sick event to be at. So like for when I got the time and the money to do it, I was just like, screw it, I'm going out there, I'm flying.
Nice.
So yeah, just
Were you at the
ended up-
last one then?
yeah, I was at the last one, and oh my god, it's so much fun. So
You can
much
feel
fun.
I mean, yeah, like just the events, like all different things, but just all the just all the stuff going on behind the scenes, right? Like the people training outside of the gym and then afterwards, and just there's legendary parties,
Mayhem.
right? Yeah.
Mayhem is fun. Like I've been to the last two, and it's just incredible every single time. Like it's just where everybody just cuts loose, and it's just like, yeah, this is team spirit right here.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
This is everybody coming out of their shell all at once, and you're just like just having a good time.
I mean, all these parkour people just feeding off of each other, right? Like,
Yeah, no, big time. And it's just where like, you get to, it's just the melding pot of like incredible talent to beginner to intermediate to advanced practitioners all coming together and
Yeah.
just like just chilling and having a good time. So
Oh, it must feel so good.
it's
Oh,
such a nice like stage that parkour is at, right? That like you can like just start and be at a jam with, someone who's like the best of the best.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen in a lot of sports right now.
True.
well, I remember like my first NAPC that I went, I just ended up coming into the gym to just train a little bit, and then just went over into the corner and it was just like, oh, these guys are these, I haven't met these guys, let's go and let's go meet these guys. Pull up and I'm like, oh hey, what's your guys' name? I'm Mike. And they're like, oh yeah, I'm Tim, I'm Tom. And it's like, oh yeah, where are you guys from? It's like, oh, the UK. And they're like, oh, that's sweet. Like, how are you guys liking it? And we're like, oh yeah, it's really good. And, not only to notice that, like, later down the line, it's just like, oh shit, that was Tim Champion and Tom Taylor.
Yeah.
Like,
Shit.
didn't even know. And
Yeah.
I find that so fun because like if you like say you come in there and you're just like
Yeah.
you have that starstruck power of just like,
True.
uh-oh,
Yeah.
I need to like act a certain way. I want to be cool in front of these like legends. And then it's just a completely different experience. Whereas like, hey, you just
Yeah.
like having a chill time, pulling up, and then it's just like, oh hey, yeah, we're
You
just,
know what, Mike?
we're just chilling
had-
here, big
I
chilling.
had the same experience that you're talking about at that jam where I competed there with Andrea Ross,
Oh, yeah.
and
Yeah.
I just went up there because she was like the only lady really that was in the group there, and I'm just like, well, whatever. And then I started following her, and then I seen her get into stunts, and that she's like, I'm like, I know this person.
Yeah.
Just
Well, she
because
was also like an
parkour-
Olympic wrestler for the longest
She's
time
a-
before
Oh,
she.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So these people, just because like you're in a community, it's such a niche community,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you're all doing your thing, your sport, your flow, whatever, and you just see someone there that you might like, hey, what's your style? Like, let's do some stuff, whatever. And then next thing you know, there's somebody. It's like,
Mhm.
what the heck? I love
Yeah.
that feeling. That was the only time though. Like,
Yeah.
I know what you were going through. Yeah. That's
No,
great.
big time. And yeah, that's what I find too, is just like, even if you're in a crowd with like big time names and then you're
Mhm.
just jamming, but then you find like the weirdest, most technical challenge all of a sudden it's just like even the guys that have been like training for like a decade are just like, oh yeah, that's actually really cool. Like sure, they might like flash it, they'll just send it right away, but like at the same time it's just like everybody's just down and vibing for just
Anything.
exploring.
Yeah.
Like everybody's just down for
Hanging
that
out.
type of experience.
Yeah, throwing down what you know and moving on to the next one.
It's got to be weird to be parkour famous too, though, right? Because like in the community, like you're like a legend, but then in the, like the Muggle world,
Yeah.
no one knows who you are at all.
It's got to be like any other celebrity as well. Just like you go out to Mumbai or something like that, and just like a nobody. So
Yeah.
you're just trying to like pick up some like food, and then you're just thinking like, oh man, people are gonna recognize me, and it's just like,
No one does.
okay, that's this much. It's just like, okay, you know who I am? It's just like, yeah, the guy that's gonna give me this much.
Yeah.
Pay me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You are-
it's gonna definitely be interesting seeing how that type of like that if that type of celebrity kind of develops in the parkour world. I feel like it kind of has in the sense because
For
like
sure.
you've watched all these people do incredible things around the world, and then all of a sudden they're in front of you, and you're like, oh shit! It's like meeting all of the Modus guys. You're like,
Right.
damn, you're younger than me, and holy
Yeah.
crap, you freaking flow like a mother.
Yeah.
Jeez, you guys are just so freaking like steezy.
It's kind of
Holy
hard
crap.
not to do that though, right? When you're always seeing people's videos and seeing their faces and everything, and then
Mm-hmm.
you see them in real life. It's just like,
I don't know how to act. What do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What I do with my Yeah. No, it's quite humbling actually to see people in their natural environment in our sport.
Yeah, and I still love that it's just a melting pot for the most part. Like, sure, I think I remember like trying to write out a blog post about kind of like the athleticism versus recreationalism in parkour.
Mm.
And just like, whether or not, okay, parkour should only be a recreational venture where it's just like, it's just self-expression and evolution and so forth. Or if it should be, this competitive venture of figuring out like, okay, what can the body do? And
Right.
I see both sides of the aisle there because like not everybody's gonna do well in a competitive space, and I've been on both sides of that because like in growing up I was in like t-ball, baseball, basketball, and soccer, and what other than it being a team sport, I didn't really enjoy team sports style that much because it's like it wasn't about how well I did. It was about how well the rest of the team did. And I'm like, well,
Right.
I can't carry the whole team. It might have just been a lot of egotism on my side of things, but at the same time, it's just like I would like to think that hey, I was doing well enough that if everybody else was around with me, then like okay, we would have crushed it. But being in youth sports, it's like, especially any type of like drop in or anything like that, it's like not everybody's going to be as competitively spirited. And at the end of the day, it's just like, just didn't really like that idea of like, put in all this effort and it means nothing. But
Right.
I guess that's what participation medals are for. But
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I see the venture for it. But at the same time, it's just like you'd want to be able to look at it and be like, yeah, there was achievement behind it instead of just like, yeah, I showed up.
Yeah.
It's like giving someone one of those in parkour, like a participation. Yeah, you came out.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't work. It doesn't
Yeah,
work.
it was the one thing that I was just like a little bit like about the West Coast Parkour Championships because they had like ribbons.
Yeah.
For I mean like I feel like the ribbons were fine, but at the same time it's just like you get placed along that spectrum, and as it is like the parkour community is fairly small, so it's just like it kind of becomes your label and your ranking, and you're just like,
Really?
oh. or at least like
Right.
that's my thought to it. Like,
Yeah.
definitely not
I can
the
see that.
case, but it's just one of the thoughts that I've had when I saw those. I was like,
That is true,
but
hey,
at the same
because
time, you do get something out of it because it's like,
Hmm.
oh, I showed up, I did work. I wouldn't have otherwise gotten this had I not done work. Then cool.
yeah, probably has a lot to do with like your expectations too, right?
True.
Like if you think like I'm gonna
Yes.
be the place first for sure, and then you come
Yeah.
in dead last, it's gonna be a harder hit. Where if you're like, hey, well, I'm just doing this, it's gonna be fun. I don't really care what
Yeah.
I get. If I win, I win.
See,
Yeah.
sometimes like there's been I had that mentality going into Davis's teams like parkour jam and comp. It was Goons Jam.
Mhm.
And they did that back in like September of 2019, and it was kind of like a skill comp
Right.
where basically just do all these things and then you get a certain amount of point value, and then based off of
Right.
whoever got a certain amount of point value goes into the finals essentially.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I remember just like I'm just gonna go in and like try to do as many things as I can, not really having a high expectation.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I was just like, I still want to challenge myself.
Yeah.
And then ended up getting into the finals, and I'm like, oh
Nice.
god, now I actually have to do work. And I remember I had the same mentality like the first time I went into NAPC and did the on-site qualifiers, and again did skill the same day, and it's the same thing. I was just like, I just really want to see how many challenges I can bust out, and then I messed the threshold, and I was like, oh, that's so sick. And I remember I was just like, but I am so tired.
Right.
I am
Yeah.
so tired. I am hungry. I am dead. I need something before I die. So the beautiful thing about Origins is that it had this bagel shop and a coffee shop right next to each other.
Oh, perfect.
Rosemary
Oh,
rock salt bagels, and then Kafka coffee.
Did you say
And
captain?
Kafka?
Oh, Kafka.
Yeah,
Captain Coffee. Sounds
Captain
good.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, you just started a brand right there. You
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
do it right now.
Green.
But yeah, I remember just like I need to get something to eat because uh, quarterfinals are gonna start, and
Yeah.
I have nothing. Oh my god, I'm gonna wreck myself. It's not gonna be fun.
Where
So-
are the orange
Yep.
slices?
Oh, yeah. That's fun.
Is there a story behind the orange slices?
It's from soccer.
It's from
Just
soccer.
soccer.
There's always orange slices.
There's always like in between, like halves. There's at the end of the game. There's some mom or someone's dedicated that week to bring orange slices to get
Yeah.
your what are they electrolytes going back.
Yeah, yeah.
For us, it was always watermelon
Oh,
Mm, really?
because it
Oh,
was
it
always
pick-
like
yeah.
a summertime sport.
Is this like a provincial difference here, maybe?
Maybe who knows? Who gets the kiwis?
Ooh, the kiwis.
Who brings
I don't know. Like that sounds bougie. That's on a different budget.
Yeah. That's way too expensive.
BC? Yeah.
But yeah, then like it just ended up like grabbing a bagel and getting a coffee, and like my God, my life was made after that. It was just like
Nice.
felt the life force come back into me, and then I was able to crush out. I think I got was it either it was either 2 or 3 challenges, and like coping. I'm trying to remember how to actually like say his full name, but CP from I believe he's from Singapore.
CP.
Yeah, big guy out there. He was the man behind Project Dive Roll.
Nothing comes to me.
Jeez,
But yeah,
no.
yeah, definitely look him up because he is worth every waking moment of your attention.
Nice.
But yeah, he ended up going like the spot ahead of me, and then he didn't get anyone. I was like, wait, this guy that's like crazy wasn't able to get a single challenge, but man,
Right.
I'm gonna fuck up. This is not gonna work out very well. but yeah, then just ran in there. I was like, just whatever, just try to do your best, like get up in there and just do what you can. And yeah, I was able to do some really good work. Definitely opened my eyes to kind of what I needed to work on as far as like skill development.
Yeah.
But overall, just like had a really good time. And like, when everybody's there cheering you on, like trying to get a challenge done, it's like, yeah, this is really sweet. Like, oh man. But it's easy to get also in your head when you're just like, oh man, like messing this up in front of everybody. It's like, oh man, this sucks. But at the same time, like I wouldn't have traded it for anything, because I felt like I grew so much within that one instance, and yeah, it was an awesome time.
Yeah, if you're in the right headspace, safe, like doing these competitions, like I know for myself doing like the speed comp at Dupe Jam, and then the skill one at Empire for their opening was so much fun. But it pointed out some weaknesses too, right?
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I wasn't there to beat myself up about it. It's just like, oh yeah, I can improve on this.
Yeah, just here to have a good time, and that's what I find like in like a successful comp space. It allows everybody to kind of get their feet wet in the comp scene, and interact with those types of people, because that's what's going to bring people back, is that same energy, that same level of accomplishment. Like, sure, you're like, if you don't do very well, like you're gonna be bummed. Like, who wouldn't be bummed? But at the same time, you're going to be really thankful that you did, because you're able to brush up and touch shoulders with all these other people, and learn from them. Like, even in like one of those qualifiers, you're in a line, you're gonna go and do this challenge, and you're just watching other people do it, and then you just learn so much within that one span of time.
Yeah.
I remember there's this one challenge.
I miss jam so much.
Yeah, I can't wait for them to come
I'm just
back.
like reminiscing. I'm like, I want to go to jam right now.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry to interrupt. I apologize.
No, because like it's the same sentiment here. Like it's just such a gathering hump for the community, and I find that that's what the community really is about, is like getting events together to bring people in. Like that's what at least like that's what I found in the Calgary scene and the Vancouver scene. Like, everybody just loves having those interactions, and unfortunately, when you have a contagious virus going around, then that's not the great for having like everybody from around the world come into one space and touch butts.
But you know what? I found in the pandemic, it was easier to access a lot of spaces.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
the
there.
foot traffic, or like security didn't want to get off their and come down and see you kind of thing. You're like, oh okay, they don't want to go near you kind of.
Yeah, everybody just like everybody's got the plague.
Yeah.
I don't want to touch you with a 10-foot pole, because then I'll have to throw the pole out.
Pull out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get a lot of training in when it was like under some severe lockdowns, and like that's like my one regret through it, because like as you say, like so much would have otherwise been opened up that would have otherwise not been had we've been under normal circumstances. And as it is, like getting back to training now, because like we'll try to at least for me, I try to get out every Sunday and do a training session with some guys. So just had one this past Sunday and had a lot of fun.
Nice.
Had one guy out from Quebec, actually, Alex.
Shout out to Alex.
So he came through, and we got a good number of people out, and thankfully, like we haven't had to worry about group limitations. like there was a point in time where it was like limited to 5 people in the outdoor environment. But now it's like all the way up to 20, so it's just like, don't worry about it.
You're ahead of us then. We just got to the 5.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you guys got set back a little bit. Yeah,
Yeah, not doing so good here.
It's
I
just
kept
because
on
our
doing same thing. I didn't stop doing what I. No one's restricted me.
yeah, but now it's like a lot more of the time. I go out and we get kicked off of spots. Like I remember.
This
It was
past
like
Sunday?
no, well, one time this past Sunday we were at the Calgary
Okay,
Tower
cool.
spot, the Calgary Tower Ledges, and just found like a new challenge up towards like the back end, which is this elevated staircase to this one exit. And so you have like this one long, like 12, 14-foot drop off this wall, off this other side. But then going away from that, then you have this one angled piece that kind of joins off at like a pretty obtuse angle. And then a planter that's, not too far, but like definitely nothing that you would be able to just like do a stationary like pole Kong to. Well, you probably could, but like you need like giant orangutan arms and
Yeah.
1.5 years of senzu beans or something like that. But yeah, like we were just jamming on this one spot, and then the security guard comes out behind on the staircase, and they're just like, "What are you guys doing?" I'm like, we're doing parkour, like we're just trying to, move our bodies from this end to the other end. And then it's like, you can't do that here. I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll move on. And then Ian, who was with us, Ian Parsons, he was just like, can you spare us like 3 more minutes so we can get like 3 more lines? And then she's just looking at us like, what are you talking about? And we're like, oh no, don't worry about it. Like, yeah, we're going. Just like, don't worry, we'll just come back later when
when you're gone.
Yeah, you're gone. Next shift.
At the end of the day, it's just like, it's outdoors and it's widely open to the public. It's not gated off or anything like that. So it's just like, the idea of it being a private park, probably should put signage up first and then start making those arguments. But at the same time, it's all about being as respectful as possible and building a good relationship with everybody else in the city that otherwise doesn't really understand what the heck we do and why the heck we're standing on ledges and jumping from one thing to another. Like to everybody else, it's just a giant liability claim waiting to happen.
I know, that's all they see.
Yeah, but then it's through that. It's that exposure therapy, really. Like the more that they get exposed to the community coming out, and then there's no issues, then chances are they're going to be a lot more chill about it. Like example would be just yesterday with the jam. One of the security guards for the Bow building.
Did they join?
No. But they just left us alone.
I was gonna ask you about the Bow building. It looks like a sweet spot to chill. Like, oh wow.
It's a good chill spot, but man, security is tight.
Anya, okay, go on. What's your story? Sorry.
But yeah, so we're just jamming at Wood Park, which is just this one little sitting area out in front of the Telus Sky building and the Bow Tower. And then just right down the street is Calgary Tower. So you got a lot of like really interesting architecture, and it's right off of the C train line. So the light rail that goes throughout the city. So it's really accessible. So after Century Gardens ended up getting cordoned off and scheduled for and worked on for renovations, we just kind of naturally moved towards that side. And that was just kind of our starting point, because it had a lot of really interesting challenges, and it was like pretty accessible to anybody and everybody. So there's like, a lot of beginner stuff that you could do, nice easy vaults here and there. But then, you got some intermediate jumps that you can do with running prees. You got bigger running prees. You got substantial running strides. And you're just like, yeah, there's a lot to offer here. So, it seems like Yeah, it seems like a pretty plain spot, but then you like start opening it up, and even just yesterday, like went and saw challenges that I was like, oh, I never saw that before, and it's like, who who would have thought that we're still finding new challenges in such like a
Mhm.
otherwise like pretty like it seems like a bland spot until you start like working into it.
That's funny how that can happen with spots.
But
Like you train at them for years, years and years, and then maybe you train someone new, and then they see something. It's like, oh, that's been
exactly,
there this whole time.
exactly. But yeah, we were just training there, and then the security guard came out, and I'm like, ah, crap, this is it. We're gonna get kicked off. But then he just goes over into the corner, and then just checks to see that if anybody's like just loitering, just chilling out in the corner, and then just walks out throughout the park, and people are just doing like palm spins on some of the benches towards like the end of the park, and just
Just
no,
chill.
just chill, just walks off, and I'm like,
Oh, nice.
sweet.
Nice.
And we just kept on going and got got
Wow.
some good clips, and had a good time. I guess the only problem was that it was just that spot just bakes in the sun, and it was like 30 degrees out. So, but yeah, like that's also another thing that I just love about parkour is that once you start mixing in with people that have different experiences and have maybe a different skill set, maybe different perception of you got that different parkour vision.
Right.
They see challenges where you don't.
Right. I love that.
I think that's where like that travel bug kind of comes around too.
Mhm.
'Cause then it's just like, oh yeah, get to experience all this new architecture and new ways of moving. It was like when I ended up going out to Montreal and hooking up with like the Unit 45 guys and going to the spot. I was just like, oh, this is really cool. Like there's just so many new obstacles to overcome and like a bunch of new challenges to try. Whereas, you can get definitely bogged down in your local spots over and over and over again doing the same thing. So it definitely spices up the training.
Yeah. And people definitely their styles become products of their environment, right?
Oh,
Like
big time.
there's a reason why so many people in the UK are probably so good because that architecture there is ridiculous.
Oh yeah.
Well, like why are there walls there?
Well, they built themselves in so much.
Yeah,
Whereas like in Canada, we have so much room out.
Open.
But over the last while, the downtown core has definitely started to take on a lot more ledges, and I'm seeing a lot of challenges that otherwise wouldn't have been there if we didn't start building up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I liked about the vision that the current mayor had was that we're trying to reduce the amount of sprawl out because Calgary is like notorious for suburban sprawl.
Right.
And we have like so many communities all spread out that are just I like to think of like the weeds intro, the little boxes on the hillside.
That's hilarious. Little houses. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. Good call on that. How Calgary grows.
But then it definitely started to put a little bit more emphasis on building up the downtown core and like developing bigger multi-family units, and
really?
with that, like they ended up putting like a bunch of interesting planters and retaining walls that just so happen to be really good for parkour. So it's
cherry on top there.
Hey Mike, let me ask you. You've been talking about all this parkour. What got you started in parkour in the first place? Like.
Yeah, so I ended up getting started in parkour back in 2010, back when I started high school. And
high school?
So it was back when like it was basically the friend group was Riley Hilton or Rare, Brody Shaw, Josh Dowie, and then my brother. Basically, like we would just go around and like climb up schools and climb up school buildings and stuff like that.
That was a thing in Calgary to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That.
And then they ended up like I think Brody and his brothers like started like doing this like extreme running. So they just like go downtown and like extreme run on stuff, and it's just like, you know, then they'd be jumping on a few things and then like run away, and then, you know, just started doing a bunch of that. So then between him and Rare, I think it was they ended up finding out about No Limits AFC, which was the original like parkour gym and hub that we had before Breathe. So then, yeah, they just was like, hey, this is really cool. Like, you should come out and like give it a try. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. Came out there, and I was just like, oh yeah. So came every like month or so, and then all of a sudden like every week, and then like 2 weeks, and then 3 weeks, and it's just like it just built from there on.
That's awesome.
And then I was like, okay, you know, memberships kind of get expensive. All right, I should probably go ahead and figure out what to do here. So I ended up volunteering because they had a gig. They called the citizenship program, where they would start you off and like, you know, helping out monitor open gym and like help with cleaning, and
Oh yeah, okay.
and then they had a track path for you to get on as like an instructor, or kind of go through that that training period. So they ended up all going through that. So they were all like instructors by before the time I ended up even getting past like, you know, first levels or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, essentially I was just like, well, I have no money to go ahead and pay for for a membership, and I can't pay for all these passes, but I still want to, you know, hang out with everybody and train. So let's just put the sweat in and volunteer around here. So then that led me on to getting onto instructing.
Oh,
And
cool.
I still remember like teaching my first introductory class and just being like very mousy and just being, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna, you know, put your foot here, and then you're just gonna, you know, okay, just put your hands down here, and you're just gonna roll over your shoulder, okay. Yeah.
I don't think you're the only one. Yeah.
And then I got the feedback. It's just like, yeah, you're doing really good, but you got to speak up. And I'm like, crap.
Yeah.
That's the same way.
Yeah.
So the longest time I was like super introvert, and I still am, but you know, I can handle a lot more being outgoing a little bit more, and speaking out a little bit more. Something that's like, man, I put a lot of work into over the years, especially through instruction and becoming professional in my field. I'm like, oh my God, I need to learn how to talk now, or else this is not going to turn out very well. It's going to close a lot of doors.
Something about the repeated exposure, hey, when it starts like almost you know, just part of the daily thing, you stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, right. I'm talking to a large group of people, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I feel like that's something that I definitely lost out on over the pandemic, was just because like I wasn't interacting with as many people, and online interaction, if you're just on like a voice chat, you just don't get those cues. You're just like, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's, there's so much stuff that just gets lost in translation of, it's like trying to text somebody like a sarcastic comment, and then they're like, what the hell did you just say? No, it's like sarcasm. You got to put the winky face or something like that. So yeah, like definitely over the years of just having to deal with instruction, going to university, it definitely had to push myself out of that type of comfort zone. And I mean, it definitely has helped to do so, because, well, incidentally, like if you have the best ideas in the world, not going to go anywhere unless you're able to communicate it, be it through, I don't know, writing, or through being able to speak it. So yeah, that was kind of ended up getting started in parkour, and that it just ended up leading into taking on bigger roles as far as the community goes, and part of that was getting into gym designs, and that was something that I got into because during my upgrading year after I'd pretty well graduated, I needed to upgrade my math because I just decided, okay, I'm just going to put that off to the side while I work on my biology and my chemistry, do all my sciences, because I really enjoyed science. And I was just like, oh yeah, this is really fun. But then it's just like, but math, I don't want to do math. So it reflected in the grades. It was just like, okay, all the time and effort is just like on a logarithmic scale. Just gonna okay. So ended up going back and upgrading my math, of which just absolutely crushed it because I was like, well, I don't want to take this again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, decided to just because of the way it would be to just take one course in the morning and then just like have a weird rest of the day before going to work. I was just like, okay, well, might as well just fill that in with like an option here or there. So decided to end up like finishing off my physics and then also doing 3D design or doing like pre-engineering, which they had 3D printer, which was new. So it's like, that's really freaking sweet.
Yeah.
So ended up getting taught on AutoCAD and and then ended up 3D printing a bunch of stuff, and one thing led to another, and kind of got wind that I had this 3D modeling experience. So then when there was a split between Breathe and No Limits, Breathe was looking for a space that would be much more specific to parkour, because No Limits wanted to maintain their alternative fitness concept, which was like, okay, we wanted to make sure that we had, capoeira, we wanted to have all these different disciplines under one house, which was really cool because it got me into like martial arts.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it definitely limited what the parkour community could do at the given time, because we were just limited to the amount of floor space. And then the more floor space that we took up, the more that other groups in that facility would complain, is be like, well, they're taking over the space.
Yeah.
When you put up a big wall, the wall got to be put up,
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah. So yeah, we just ended up. They ended up approaching me, and I ended up working together with Jay Iwanchuk, who's also a big part of our team, on developing the first designs for the North Gym at that time.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the heck we were thinking, but we were just like so set on having the biggest foam pit ever. We were just like, we want to have this foam pit do everything. We're going to have a platform here. We're going to have like all this space. We're going to have these bars. We're going to have these walls. We're going to like throw this all together. We don't know how we're actually going to like suspend or like, fill the pit or anything but we're going to do it. We're going to make it happen. And my God, that thing was a monstrosity, but it was amazing. It was so amazing.
That's a big platform there.
Yeah. Well, in the original designs, I was just told, just go, just do whatever.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, cool.
World's your oyster. Like, just put everything down, man. So that's one thing that I've always loved about working with Breathe, is that Matt Talbot, he just is always just like, he's always been very open to basically any type of input. So whenever I come up with like all these crazy designs that I know are going to be like an engineering like catastrophe to happen for anybody that's actually going to try to build it, he still entertains it and like figures out a way to make something like it come to being. So I've never felt limited with what
Nice.
what I've been able to design
Yeah.
Right.
working through Breathe, and that's kind of why I just ended up going on and apparently, you know, they kept on liking the work that I did, so they just kept on coming back to me and telling me, hey, yeah, like we've got this new project and we really want to have you on.
I got a question for you. Did
Go
you
for
help with the Empire build, like designing?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I didn't want to. I really didn't want to step on any toes in the community,
For
in the sense
sure.
that like each community I find has a very distinct way in which they view parkour and gym design. So you know, everybody's going to have different aspirations for a space, and you know, I didn't want to come in with my perspective and kind of put that on them. So what I did was I mainly just took on a consulting role, and it's just like, you know what, if you yeah, just like if you guys want send me designs and like let me check them over, like I'll definitely do that. Like I'll give you my 2 cents and kind of give you some insights from my experience with all the gyms that we've designed, all the setups that we've done, so that hey, you can avoid some of the mistakes that we've had before.
Yeah.
Like
It
putting your
seems like it's maximized space, like what you can, and that's like it's a small space. Let's face it is, but whoever like had the design in there, like they used everything.
Yeah.
No, I think I believe Ruben really took the lead on that one, but
Cool.
I forget. It was definitely a collaborative work with Ruben and Tyler, as far as what I remember.
Yeah.
But you know, in some of the first iterations of the designs, there was definitely some stuff that I was just like, no, you don't want to do that, because you're gonna hate yourself for it. You're gonna hate yourself for it because it's gonna block you off from doing this. You're not gonna be able to do that. Just my biggest takeaway was always like, you know, you just never put a giant foam pit right in the middle of your facility.
Yeah, I guess so.
It blocks off the space. It makes everything look small. Like it's like as fun as North was, like my God, originally the design was so that like it was supposed to be like this like scaling pagoda that kind of like goes up, but because of the way that, you know, and the cost and the engineering that would have otherwise been required to make it happen just didn't end up happening.
Oh, yeah,
and originally the entrance was supposed to be on the other side, but because of just the of some of like the emergency exits and other things like that, they're just like, okay, so like, yeah, we're just gonna spin it around. I'm like, okay, and not thinking that it's just like, oh yeah, the first thing that you're greeted with was this big 8-foot wall.
Yeah.
As soon as you walk into the space, and you're like, huh? And then you look over and it's like, it's more wall. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah.
What's going on over here? So yeah, definitely steered them into direction, given my opinion on several of the designs, and ultimately I think they killed it. Absolutely. Sure. Like I love that facility so much.
Yeah.
I
can't wait to travel.
If there's anyone listening that's in Saskatoon right now and hasn't been to Empire, check out Empire Parkour for sure.
It's a fun place.
I was writing up a blog post before we decided to start moving over our website. Now that like it's on Spotify, I'm not sure what we'll do for blog posts, but like I was starting to get going on a number of blog topics, and one of them was like parkour podcasts. And like it's such a like an underutilized medium.
It really is.
And you know, when and one thing that I kind of mentioned in that piece was that you know, parkour is a very visual sport, and you know, you are known through your movement, but not through your experience and your mentality and like all that other stuff. The only way I find that really comes out is through podcasts, because you're able to you know, come down and start having that chat. And that's another thing about jams is just like it's not just about the training, it's all about how you're in this melting pot of people, and they're all sharing these ideas, and they're all like vibing together, and then figuring out like, oh yeah, like these people from all the way across the world are pretty well just the same as me over here. This is cool. And then just becoming buddies like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I find that the podcast.
It's through all like the conversations with people too, just over the years, going through just life,
Mhm.
and kind of taught like, life lessons learned, sharing it with people, and
Yeah.
it's always through the parkour filter. Like everything has to relate to parkour somehow. Like,
Mhm.
It's true, actually.
yeah, when you're just working on something and it just keeps messing up and you keep trying over and over until you finally get it.
There's something that like Riley brought up in our latest podcast was, how it parkour taught him how to break things down into steps.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
do the progressions, do the work to see big challenges as just small challenges just waiting to happen.
Yeah. And that's
And
all
just
it is.
finding that
I love it.
It applies to all learning. You see
Yeah.
like some final like end result of, whatever. It's like, well, no, it's just like one step at a time here. I think I actually learned how to be a better learner from parkour. Does that make sense?
No,
You know?
I would agree with that. Like, I never thought I would do the things that I'm currently or have done if it wasn't for this sport. Because
I agree.
the steps and the fundamentals, first of all, there's very basics, and those basics will push you to go greater, higher, longer, further, more stuff in a line, whatever. But and then those little more stuff that you add to the line, and those go in 2 steps too. It's almost like a rewiring of a brain in a way to think
Yeah.
like, it is all possible, but how do you get that to that possible point? Well, let's do this, let's do that. What's more efficient? What's more flow? What's your deal? What are you trying to do here? But no, I think everyone in parkour has the same kind of mentality. No matter who I talk to, I see it in them.
Yeah. You have to have it.
Hence the differentiation between the parkour people and the muggles.
And the muggles,
we were just wired differently.
Just seriously, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people right away, like, muggles, they'll see parkour and be like, I can never do that. Like, well, yeah, you can.
Yeah, everyone says that.
Like, you can do it. Just gotta start.
So many of my friends have said that. Like, oh, come on, Christy, I can't do it. I'm like, this wall is made out of plush. Move your legs, pull your arms, and get over it. Right? And then they do it. Then I tell them to do another move, and they're like, come on, this is easy. I'm like, the first one was hard, and this one's easy. Like, okay, let's do this. Like, but it's great, though. I love it. I don't know why I went on a tangent there. But...
because it's fun going on tangents and
just
going down rabbit holes.
No, it's a rewiring. That's right. A rewiring brain. Trying to see even that one wall rewired a friend's brain to do something. The next thing was easy. Reeled it all back in.
Yeah. And that's something that I remember, putting out there before. Was just like, you know what? Like, yes, you will get hurt if you do parkour in the way that you think that you're going to do parkour.
Right.
But there's a progression, there's a way to do it safely.
Yeah.
And essentially you saying that, hey, it's a dangerous sport is projecting your own insecurity in the movement that you are able to do onto the practitioner who has that experience. Like, I'm not going to say to an underwater welder, like a deep sea underwater welder, that what he does is crazy. It's just like there are steps up to that point that he has gone through that makes that reduces the risk down to a manageable level that you're able to deal with. So there's that balance between, person's risk assessment versus what the actual hazard is. And that's the same as like a roof gap. It's just like if it's a roof gap of 2 foot, anybody and everybody can jump 2 feet.
Yeah.
If you can't, then you basically can't step over a curb.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't take a
So
large step.
the risk is minimal so long as you do the proper movement, whereas the hazard increases depending on the drop. So, it's just getting into that headspace of understanding, how do I manage the hazards and reduce my risk?
Yeah.
So
That was
how do
really well said.
yeah, well,
I was
it's something
so
that I've
glued
had
to
to, yeah, it's something that was just, you know, inadvertently taught to me through my environmental science degree, which is on doing risk assessments and environmental risk assessments, and also impact assessments. And that's kind of what they were talking about, is like, you have to have, there's a matrix, there's a way that risk and hazard are intertwined, and the way that you are able to mitigate your hazard and your risk is through, figuring out ways to compartmentalize them, control
Right.
them, and break them into manageable constraints that you can plan for.
Hmm.
So like in the case of, say, doing a roof gap, then, first off, the risk assessment would be, am I capable of doing this jump? If the answer is no, then don't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Why? Because that mitigates all hazard. By not doing something, you just don't have the hazard. How do you build yourself up to reduce the risk of encountering the hazard? Well, you train and you develop a intuitive sense of what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
So I love it that it was somebody that was on our Twitch stream the other day, gave parkour like the idea of it being the body's calculus, of just like, okay, you have all these variables coming into one bit, and you're plugging away on all these things, and then you're getting your output. So you can tweak the variables so that you get the output that you want. So it's all mental calculus going in. It's like, how much do I have to swing my arms to go ahead and like get my chest up in my stride? Like, how do I get myself a little bit more lift in my jump? How do I throw myself a little bit further in a lâche? It's just like, well, it's mental calculus at the end of the day. You gotta break it down, and you gotta figure out which variables are the ones that you need to tweak to get the challenge.
Cool.
So yeah, I thought that was a really cool idea, and I was just like, non-parkour person coming into a Twitch stream, I forget their name, but either way, like, they just dropping that on, like, man, that
is so good.
Never thought I'd get such insight from outside of the community.
Yeah,
And
respect, right?
yeah, I loved it. Like, I just love that idea. But yeah, like,
I'm gonna put that on my resume.
performs movement body calculus.
Yeah.
to an adept level.
Yeah.
Exceptionally gifted in moving the body.
You got your PhD in body calculus.
Body calculus. You can call me doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that would be so fun though, if like more countries start following like the Danish educational model, where like you can basically take parkour, or it's either in Denmark or in Finland. I forget which one, but they actually offer parkour as like a course that you can take.
What?
In like high school or junior high, and you can just take parkour, and they have like these incredibly sick gyms. So
Yeah.
like, imagine that. It's just like, oh yeah, maybe they actually do come out with a doctorate of parkour.
Denmark has some ridiculous amount of parkour parks.
Dang.
Like,
they were such big adopters. They were so early to the game, and like, my God, they're killing it. Like the like some of the designs that I've seen come out of there are just so interesting. And
Yeah.
I know that I've taken bits and bobs out of all of that and put them into some of the gym designs that I've done before. Yeah, that's just kind of how I end up doing things, is like, just look around and see what's out there, and try to replicate it in a way that puts your own twist on it, that it gets fit within the space. It's not just like copying and pasting it in and just like everybody knows that this is this. Kind of in the way that kind of in the way that Origins took IMAX walls and put them in the gym, but they did it in a way that incorporated all the other elements of the gym. So it's not like there's that one little section of the gym that's just everybody knows it's IMAX walls. Everybody knows it's just a pure replication of that area. It's actually just like, oh yeah, like, oh, these are like cool edges, and then you start jumping on them and you're like, oh yeah, like this is pretty cool, and then you're just like, then somebody's like, oh yeah, like this is like modeled after IMAX. I'm like, oh damn, that's really cool. Now like, hey, I can do something here, and then if I'm able to do it here, then I could probably do it over there too. That'd be really sweet.
So you've done, sorry, I can't talk, helped like design the south location of Breathe and the new north, is that right?
Yeah.
Have you worked in any like concepts like that, any designs of like local spots into your gyms at all, or maybe international spots?
I definitely did.
Yeah.
In some of the original like North renos back when we were just talking about being within the same space and then just kind of refurbishing some stuff. I definitely took a lot of influence out of Century Gardens, trying to recreate some of those angles and some of that architecture, because it was just it's just such a pillar of our community, that spot, because of just how much variety in the architecture there was. So it was a very brutalistic style of architecture with a lot of different angles and big blocks, and then you have all these different levels from the bottom bridge, or the bottom like deck area, to the railings, to the next levels up by the benches, to the bridge over the top. So there was just so many different ways to approach everything, and it wasn't a very boxy. So like there was very many like angled ledges everywhere. So not a lot of it was, well, there was definitely a lot of that was squared up, but like for the most part, it was just so abstract that you can't make this jump, but you can make that jump. Oh, you can't make this jump, but you can make that jump. You can't do that Kong, but you can do that Kong over there. So it was so much variety to it. There was, you could do climb ups, you could do your jumps. There was open areas where you could incorporate some flips, and I guess like if people were a little bit more confident with their with their flip precisions at the time of Century's heyday, I could have seen some wicked precisions, some flip precisions being done. But yeah, unfortunately, they ended up doing a large amount of renos, and they've actually planted a lot of trees in a lot of those areas now. So it's become a lot. It's going to be a lot harder to do some of the same things that we did before, but at the same time, some of the original like challenges are still there. So that's what I'm really happy for, is like seeing some of those still being retained, because like those are some of those challenges that like big and scary when you were starting out, and then all of a sudden became like just a hallmark of just training at Century Gardens. And it definitely became one of the bigger inspirations and bigger hub of training in the Calgary community. So like after that ended up getting fenced off, like we definitely kind of splintered out, and everybody started to kind of train in their own little quadrants, and it was a little bit harder to kind of get everybody together. But we're starting to kind of build ourselves out of that. But yeah, it's just been that was one of the ones that I definitely wanted to incorporate into stuff. But at the same time, it's just like the logistics of actually making that is astronomical. Like,
yeah.
it would be so costly, and it would just be a feat of engineering in and of itself. So for the sake of budget and headaches, just more of that. Okay, well, we're just gonna keep it to as it is. Every time I put like an angled piece in, then I can just like hear it in the back of my head, and just like Rob Hill just going like, another angle cut, damn it.
Seriously, that's funny.
Yeah, I still remember when with the South Gym we had that central area with the wheelchair ramp.
Yeah.
I think we called it
Awesome.
the DTR, like the.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I've completely forgotten the reason why we called it that. Either way, nice platform with 2 levels. So, and it was, I don't know, it was oddly shaped enough that it's like you had a lot of different ways to come at it. So like you could come at it from one angle and then do like a number of different things, and come in from another angle and do another couple of things. You could set up different boxes and other things on it or off of it, and then create new connections. And yeah, I just remember him being like, "My God, I absolutely hate you for that." Because in the original design, it was just like a full curved wall. So like think of it just like a nice rounded bit, and in the end of it, they're just like, nope, we're just gonna do an angle cut and then put a straight wall and then another angle cut and then a straight wall, and then that's I'm like, yeah, that's fair enough. Fair enough. So that's definitely why I like working with them, is that they rein in my expectations on that type of stuff, and allow my vision to become a reality to the best of their ability. And I still remember for the Lethbridge gym, because that was the first one that I ended up doing solo for design. It was Breathe Lethbridge, and that one was in a smaller space, and I got a lot of inspiration from the one, I'm trying to remember the parkour park name, but it was the one that's built into kind of a grandstand. If you remember, I know it's a European one, but essentially what they did is that they built obstacles on this grandstand. So you have all the seating levels, and then they build obstacles to fit onto there. So now you have like a ledge to a ledge, and then you have all these kind of staircasey obstacles that kind of work interwoven together. So it was like a really cool idea, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that. So because we had this leveling structure, or we still have this leveling structure, where white band is everybody gets their white band. That's what they're working on. That's their fundamentals. That's your vaults, landing rolls, that kind of deal. And then you have your level 2, which is your yellow band. And with that, that's more introductory vaults, getting into like Kongs, getting into reverses. Then you have your orange band, and that's more getting into more height. So doing some walls, doing some bars, getting a little bit more interactive with that. We've changed up the curriculum since to be a little bit more progressionary based. So instead of just like, okay, going up and putting these skills into these different levels because of height, we're more just like, okay, well, let's teach them the skills, but then build on it in the next level to make it more complex. But essentially, we go through these different colors and this different banding system. And what I did is I made each one of those steps in the design to represent each one of those colors and those bands. So it'd be, when you come in, the ground, you just got the ground floor, and then the next step up is yellow. Next step up, orange. Next step up, gray. Next step up, green, blue, purple, red, all the way up at the top. So I remember going down there for my first time, and to get there, you have to go down this, a fairly long hallway, and then you take a left, go up some stairs, and then it just opens up to you, and you see the staircase going to go up as you enter in. You still have all these obstacles in front, but you have the staircase kind of going up, and I just remember like crying. I was like, damn it, this is so good, because like it's in and of itself, it's like it's kind of your child, because it was in your head before it even became drafted on a piece of paper or in a design in a 3D model. And then, before anybody else has seen it, like you have been, percolating all these ideas, you've been putting them together. So just seeing it in person was just like overwhelming. And I remember seeing that, and I was just like, oh man, I just ended up crying there. I was like, damn it. Awesome. Went over to Rob, and I was like, you did an amazing job.
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? We're going to talk about it after this podcast, but I have some ideas.
Yeah. And again, same thing. Like, I don't think I've actually gotten over that feeling. Every design that's come through, it's always just like this, this overwhelming feeling at the end of it. Just seeing it in person, or seeing it through the stages of the build, and seeing it all come together. Like it's just something else, and I just love that. Because from like an early age, I was always like building block forts and making pillow forts and all this other stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So I innately I figured out what could go where, and how I was very, very good at organizing things so that they would fit. And it seemed that was it seemed natural of a progression to, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna design some spaces now for people to jump on, because that's kind of what I did. So yeah, I did that. I just remember going into South Gym too. Well, when it was just bare, and just being like, just trying to transpose what I had in the designs into where everything needed to go, and realizing, oh yeah, there's some things that, okay, maybe it's not going to fit here. Maybe I need to do something. Maybe I have to work something. Like I never got pictures of like these pillars. Okay, maybe I can find ways to work these pillars, or like come around these pillars and still make this design work, but in a way that's tailored to the space. So that's one thing that I was like really struggling with, because then people would be asking me for, just, hey, just design some obstacles that we could have a repository of, and then just copy and paste into like this into whatever sandbox we want, and then build a gym. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel right, because I've always liked going into a space or seeing a space and just like developing on the character of the space itself. I definitely started out with a lot more of a blocky design, because I thought, okay, big blocky things, that's like buildings, that's really cool and all. But then, gyms like Unparalleled Movement down in Missoula, Montana, rest their souls. So sad to see that gym go. But like both of their gyms were incredibly designed and intricately placed with each of their obstacles in a way that opened up so much opportunity in such small square footage. that
Right.
it's just like after I saw that, I was like, oh, damn, that's right. Like you can do so much more in this space than just putting
Mhm.
up a big blocky structure. So that's definitely something that my design ended up developing out of, is those big blocky structures. Not to say it didn't go away. I'm just saying it just got a little bit
Yeah.
more intricate. It got a little bit more playful in the sense that it's like,
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
when I see a big blocky structure, I can break it up and just add one little, you know, a little bump out of the block to make a new challenge, new way of, using
Right.
the space. Just as simple as just putting one block here. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
something that I realized in the north renovations that just went through, with the way that the foam pit's built. You know, instead of big 8-foot wall, okay, you can take her down to a 6 foot because that's all you need for the airbag. Or
Right.
even for most foam pits too, 6 foot is still fine.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It depends on how far you're dropping off. Like if you're going off of like a 20-foot platform, then yeah, you probably want to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what that does is it allows you sightline up to the top of the to the top of the foam pit, so you can kind of see what people are doing, and it opens it up a little bit more. Um, and with that, I also built in a number of different ledges and little boxes into the
Cool.
platforms themselves, so that not only is it a platform to huck yourself into the airbag or the foam pit, it's also a starting point for a line that starts with a descent down, or you can
Neat.
go
Right.
upwards in a power challenge.
Right.
Um, and also, it just opens up a lot more um, more opportunity for using the platform itself for launching into the airbag, because instead of having to build yourself up or pull up all these stackums or like these boxes up to the foam pit, then you just have one riser right there that you can always just use as a kicker.
Right.
So
Makes
yeah,
sense.
so just trying to be as like, I was always trying to be as intelligent as I could be with the space that I was given. Of
Mhm.
course, like I definitely didn't do everything 100%. There's still stuff that I would change, but that's just the perfectionist nature
Yeah.
coming out. And you're just like, at some point you got to call it, or else, you're going to miss the boat.
Yeah.
It's just not
Just
going to
keep
happen.
refining and refining and
Yeah. And
The
it's
longer
nothing's
you
gonna
hold on
come
to
up.
stuff, the wave has come and gone. So, you just gotta get it to a point where it's just like, I'm happy with the way that this is. And I love it for all of the imperfections that happen to be in there. And so long
Well,
as, people can, appreciate and like find ways to use my spaces, then
yeah.
that's all I care about. And I love coming into the gym and after it's done, and everybody just being so grateful of like how things have been placed, because it's just like, this is just so cool.
Yeah.
Like that's what really gets me.
How how do you incorporate like modularity into it, like movable things or
Hmm.
like something like scaffolding? Like is that something you like to play with, or do you prefer the more permanent
So for
setups?
for stuff like scaffolding, I think that you could definitely do a number of things. For the most part, I like to have that as like a pretty well fixed structure, because like you don't want to be swinging on something and all of a sudden just go
Yeah.
flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
happened.
yeah, yeah, it's no fun. But at the same time, the way that you can build in modularity to your designs is to make sure that you have enough landing space in between obstacles that you can present the opportunity to actually move your obstacles into those spaces and fill it in. Um, it's one thing that I think Parkour Visions does a really good job of explaining this type of concept, where it's like if you have discontinuity between your obstacles, then it everything's so far apart, and there's really not a lot of connection to be built in there. You still want to have space in between, or else then it's just like a clumped mess, and what are people supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
But there's like this, Goldilocks zone of having enough landing space for a person to feel comfortable with landing, but not big enough that the challenge just becomes a 30-foot running precision. So
Yeah. Right.
but yeah, so that's kind of how you build modularity into your designs, is that you present landing space to be
Yeah.
open to however somebody wants to play around with any of the movable obstacles that you build, and then having a variety of movable obstacles that allows them to kind of use that space the way that they see it.
Right. Do you try to like build on have like attachment points so you can like throw bars into spaces? Like some of that like stuff you can like, get online or whatever, where it's boxes and you can just attach
Yeah.
bars here and there. Is that something you try to incorporate too, or is it just
For the most part, we've just ended up using key clamps for all of our bar work. Just for this, it's pretty simple. You don't have to hire on a welder or anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the modularity of using like prefab like that, definitely could, but I just never got into it.
Yeah. Well, all your
Yeah,
designs
I definitely
have always
I
turned out
definitely
very beautiful. So
I greatly appreciate that. Because yeah, like some of the stuff, like say For the Love, some of the boxes that oh my goodness, just names are not coming to me at all today, but they have those slots where they can take those larger beams and then place them in and then lock them in. So
yeah.
it gives them a lot of opportunity to play around with that.
Yeah.
I love that, but at the same time I hate it in the sense that it's like, okay, that face now becomes a cheese grater in the event that anything happens. So it's one of the things that I ended up doing a consult with a design firm here in the city on a parkour park,
Really?
Oh, sick.
like within the past year. And essentially what they wanted to do is they wanted to, pitch this design for 3 parks to this one community, this one developer. And they reached out to the gym because, well, who are you going to talk to about parkour than the only parkour gym in the city?
Yeah.
And then they ended up giving them my contact, so I ended up following up with them, and then we ended up having a little bit of a kind of like a town hall between some stakeholders, and seemingly I sounded intelligent enough to them that they thought, oh yeah, this guy probably knows a few things about this design stuff. So ended up meeting and figuring out kind of an agreement on building out some designs for them. So that was the most recent project I ended up getting onto, and probably one of my most like extensive pieces.
Wow.
Of course, like coming from Breathe, where you have all like the world is open to you, like you can throw anything and everything, to all of a sudden working with a design firm that has to contend with city permits and other things like that,
Right.
then it's
Yeah.
just like
Right.
your expectations definitely need to be reeled in. So yeah, definitely a lot of the design ended up getting distilled down into something quite a bit different from where I started out, but at the same time with enough character and enough flavor that would be a really good a really good spot to train. So yeah, it was definitely a really good experience getting on with that. And it was like my first like really big paid gig. So I was just like, this is
That's awesome.
fantastic. So yeah, just one of those things that I'm hoping to do a little bit more in the future, and potentially break that out into kind of a consultancy as far as
Nice.
that type of design work.
Sweet.
Are those parks in the process then of being built, or are they already built?
I believe so. I remember going up to kind of the proposed site, just to kind of, again, you get into the space, you kind of figure out what's most natural to that space, what's going to make it stand out in the sense of, hey, it's working with its environment.
Hmm.
That's why I just love those like house designs of like even like the Hobbit home
Yeah.
design, sense
Right
that
in
it's
the
like,
hill.
okay, you kind of build yourself into the
Into
space.
it, yeah. Right.
Or like you work with the environment that you're in. And I find that that's like a really parkour mentality to get into. You're
Yeah.
kind of given something and you got to work with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
And by doing so, it's gonna become its own unique
Thing.
feature, its own unique character,
Yeah.
and it's going to be
Oh.
that one thing. Then it's just like, oh, that's IMAX. I can tell where that is because of just the characteristics of the place.
Right.
Hmm.
And that was something that was pretty interesting when I ended up seeing a picture of another gym down in the States. I think it was in Boise, Idaho, possibly. Don't quote me on it, but it's called Myth Parkour, and I swear, just in just the way that they edged all of their obstacles, and like the way that the platform that they put in was
Yeah.
designed, I'm like, that looks like South Gym.
Oh, really?
Oh
And I'm just like, you know
no.
what? That's really cool. If if my
Jeez.
designs were able to inspire somebody,
That's
um,
awesome.
Yeah.
it's, comes, it's something that other people that I have not even met and never probably will meet are
Yeah.
able to
Well, that's
train on,
gonna be
like
like
reaction. And
a newfound thing in the future. Like you might just be the person that people are gonna go to build parks across Canada.
well, that's the funny thing too. Is just like, the longer you're in a particular field, or in if you constantly keep on showing up, I find
Yes.
that
Yeah.
sooner or later you're just going to be the expert that everybody's going to come to. And that's what I found like parkour with.
Yeah.
That definitely showed me that was the case. It's like, the more you get out there, the more you interact with people, the more people are going to take notice, and like more people that are going to recognize you within the sport and the discipline. And in by that, you kind of develop your own expertise
Yeah.
and your own, I mean, gravitas in that. So that's kind of the hopes for us at PODI, is just like, hey, we're just continuing to grind, even though we might have like a number of us might have shifted away from doing parkour. There's still the same mentality that we're doing. We're trying to be the best at who we are, and
Yeah.
the best at what we're doing. So if you keep that mentality going, then there's no reason why you can't be successful.
Yeah.
Sounds like sage advice right there.
That covers the sage advice for sure.
Okay,
Eh?
right on. Mike's just taking it away with all the advice and the places and the training and all that stuff. Great, I love it. That's great. Like, wow.
I
can't
love
wait
just
to
getting into those conversations, though, of just like
can't wait
that
to
higher level.
later.
And I don't know, just like even when I was like in my science degree, it was always just like, oh yeah, like let's talk about the concept of time and space and all this other stuff, like really big ideas. And it from a day-to-day perspective doesn't mean anything, but it still is kind of one of those grounding forces.
Yeah.
that at the end of the day, it's just like, the universe is fucking old. So at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's like your life is infinitesimal to the rest of the
Oh yeah.
rest of
Like
the
this-
existence of the universe. So
you need to zoom out, right?
yeah, so it's just like, hey, at the end of the day, it's just like it doesn't matter on on like a galactic scale. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean anything on a
Yeah.
universal scale. It just has to matter to you.
Yeah.
So it's like, as long as it matters to you, then just follow it through. Like that's what it is at the end of the day, is that we're all here just to experience. And what's the best way to do that is just keep on putting yourself out there and figure it out.
Damn, another sage
Yeah.
advice.
Yeah.
Just
two
drop
for
them.
one here.
Again, I love getting on these type of topics.
No, that's sage, right? The sage advice is like something that you would tell someone coming into the sport, or someone, not too sure about the sport. Like, what would you give them? And it's like just what you just said there. It's like, you know, it
Does it
can be
matter
on
that you
this.
make that jump at the end of the day? No.
Yeah, does it
It
matter?
matter,
No, but
it
does
matters to you. So
yeah,
that's really
there
all that
you
matters.
go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, should we jump to your favorite places to train then? What are your top five places
Yeah.
where you want to train or have trained?
All right.
That was so
I-
good, those sage advices.
I definitely would have to put like South Gym as part of that. Like South Gym would definitely be in the top 5. I don't think I want to order any of them just because like it's just
They're
hard.
not
then,
they're
yeah.
not in order. It's just
Yeah.
purely random. Yeah.
But yeah, South Gym, definitely. There was just so much potential in that space, and so much that you could. There was just like endless possibilities in that space.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
Century Gardens pre-construction. Again, same idea. So much untapped potential, so many opportunities, and just ultimately like just a beautiful space, despite like all the defecation all over the place, and
Yeah, it's Ethan 8.
the world's urinal, and the joke of the hobo pee fountain. But
Yeah.
it had its character.
Yeah.
And
I guess that's what it was, right?
and if anything, it
Character,
taught you that it's like you want to make sure you just hit that jump, because you
Yeah.
don't want to be ending up in the drink.
Ooh, snap.
Because you don't know what's in there.
No,
No.
you do.
And for the most part, you saw what was in there, and you're just like, I don't like that. And also,
You're just gonna
it's
block it out.
I think it was like
real water challenges.
Yeah. It's just like, yeah, Story, you got your water challenges, but I don't know if you've ever jumped over, ever ended up landing into Century Gardens fountain water. That stuff was rank. It could be rank. They definitely got to a point where they started chlorinating it, but like before that,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit eau de toilette, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
But yeah, Century Gardens for sure. I have to give it to Origins, though.
Mhm.
Nice.
It's one of probably the space in and of itself is kind of where I got a lot of inspiration to train and keep on getting inspired to train, because of just the way that people move in that space. They're always pushing the envelope. So, and that's also that was my first like big comp scene that I ended up getting into, was over in Origins. And I did a lot of growing in that space, so that's definitely on that list. Apart from that, Unparalleled Movements, their second gym, because just the intricacy of the design, and I'm just so sad that I wasn't able to be there for when they put in their new platforms before the pandemic hit. I was so ready to go over there for Fool's Jam,
Yeah.
because like the pandemic came around in March, and then at the end of March, what was it? It was Fool's Jam.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just like,
Like
no,
a few weeks
Yeah.
shy, hey?
it would have been it. Well, I think they ended up like putting it out further because they were um, trying to do a bigger event. Try to do because like the Fool's Jam before that was they had the live stream going. They had their booth set up
Yeah.
with Max Henry and Brian Prince. They were
Yeah.
on the commentary, and I think no, I don't think Joey Adrian was there, but for some reason I'm just thinking Joey Adrian. Either way, and then they also had like their logo on the backlit wall, and it's like that was just so aesthetic. They brought in all these new lights and everything, and it was just such a cool time.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just wish that I could have gone there a lot more and trained so many more things. But like when you're on a trip like that, you're always very cautious about what you're doing because you're just like, I just don't want to be hurt. I just don't want to get hurt and then have to drive back like Josh Dowie had to like quite a few years ago when he went down to Missoula and did some cliff diving, and he went down there without any like traveler's insurance.
Oh yeah.
So he sliced his foot open.
Rookie mistake.
Jumping in, and then the guys ended up having to drive him all the way back to Canada to go to the hospital. So
Dang.
definitely don't want to do that, but but at the same time, you're there to kind of learn and push yourself.
Yeah, adrenaline.
Yeah, that's one, that Fool's Jam. That's had some FOMO on that one. Seeing you, all the Calgary and Saskatoon guys out there.
Oh man, yeah, it was definitely something, and I'm wishing them all the best because they kind of noticed that locking themselves down in a gym space is terrifying, and it definitely limits what they're able to do. So I think they made a really smart decision because it allowed them to be free in the way that they needed to be to succeed. But at the same time, it's just like you can still lament that one of the best spots or best gyms is just out. And a lot of mine are gyms because a lot of training I've done is in gyms. It's kind of what with that design background, I'm just like I'm inspired by this gym design and working with that
architecture of some sort.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I guess I gotta choose one more then. And does it have to be ones that you've been to or trained
at? No, anyone you want to go to or been to or design?
I still think that there's like a little bit of like, okay, it's kind of a toss up between going to IMAX and training IMAX because there's been so much history that's been played out there that just by going and just seeing, when you just like watch it on video and then you go there in person and you're like, that's insane. That's wild. Like, everything on video looks smaller than it is in person. So just thinking of going to those places and witnessing, the true scale of what's been done. I think I would put that on the list. And then if not, then like going to Lease. And going to
no doubt
like the old school there in Dame de Lac.
Dang, that'd be so nice.
So
dare to dream.
So maybe once travel opens up a little bit and find myself not attached down to the 9 to 5 grind, and then maybe that's on the precipice.
Why
I'm
not?
glad you included Origins on there because if everything goes to plan, I'll be able to go there for the first time in August.
Heck
Oh, for
yes.
me.
So
A lot of PODI members are hoping to move out that way. So
Yeah, I've heard. Yeah.
that's the plan. So hopefully become regular patrons there.
yeah,
Get to training, 'cause I find that, you know, especially since Josh Brower ended up moving out there, it's been, you know, a hub for Canadian parkour.
yeah,
And they've really put themselves on the map with NAPC. Rez and Tom do a
Mm.
phenomenal job in fostering their community,
Yeah.
and in by that we all elevate.
yeah.
And gotta give them some love for that.
Yeah, I hope they keep you know, pushing it out, like start bringing all like NAPC back and
Yeah.
more regular competitions, you know, across Canada. Got to
Yeah,
start pushing it more for sure.
I liked what they were doing with their NAPC circuit
Yeah.
before, and it seemed like they were starting to sprout out and go quite international. I think
Yeah.
they were having plans to do a qualifier out in England and the UK
Oh,
for 2020, but then
Yeah.
where did that go? I don't know.
Yeah.
exactly.
Just a 2 year delay.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm wishing them all the best, and it seems like they've carried on with their online competition,
Yeah.
and
That's kind of cool. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was really cool seeing, you know,
Mm.
all them come together. It's a little bit hard to, you know, how do you judge that kind of competition? But at the same time, it's just like it's just so cool watching people throw down, and I think like at least I believe it was Jared Nahulu ended up getting that one,
Hmm.
and rightly deserved, because that man is absolute beast.
All
All
right.
right.
Go for it,
Go,
Tom.
go on to last one here for top 5 athletes that you know inspire you.
All right. I mean, one man that comes to mind right off the bat is Daryl Stigley.
Yeah.
That man is a absolute powerhouse, and you know, from what I've kind of gauged off of social media, he's had to overcome quite a bit.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And a lot of that came out through a lot of the Black Lives Matter movement. That,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
he was sharing his story, and like it was
Yeah.
definitely inspiring. That, you know, is a different perspective. Like, you know, coming from a different background, notice that, oh yeah, like that would definitely be scary if I was in that type of situation and I
Yeah.
had to deal with all that. So yeah, I thought, you know, him being able to kind of overcome all of those barriers and become an absolute beast
Yeah.
is just so inspiring. So, you know, he showed me that, hey, if you go ahead and you put a lot of the effort in, then you can get that work done.
Yeah.
You can do really well, and you can really elevate yourself. And I guess that's the same thing with Tim Champion, is that, like,
Mm.
you know, it just got that level of athleticism, and
Yeah.
he does it so calmly too. Like it feels like there's a reason why his nickname is Big Chillin', because he's just
Yeah.
chilling the whole
Chilling,
time. Like
yeah.
he's big and he's just chilling. Like
Yeah.
the man is just
He's a good
ab-
story. Yeah.
yeah, he's just an absolutely destructive athlete. Like
Destructive.
yeah, like I remember uh doing the same one of these same dynos in Origins that he was hitting, and like it was hard. It was super hard, but he was able to make it look so seamless because of just
So,
how well he executes,
yeah.
and also just how much effort he puts into sculpting himself to be the athlete that he is.
Right.
And I think that's really inspiring. Um, man, trying to thinking of another couple is definitely definitely hard for me right now. That's
I know it was a tough one throughout the whole
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
kinda
Yeah,
thought-
it's
yeah.
you know what? I definitely put Davis Johnson on that list because
Oh yeah.
you know, he was one of like the first kids through Breathe, and he just chased it. Like he put the medal down, and just he just excelled, and just watching that progress was just incredible, and just seeing him become the athlete that he is was so inspiring. Like just oof, the man's crazy. And I guess at the same token, like Parker Faluca, who just jammed up with this past weekend. Same type of deal. You know, first few kids like coming through, and they just saw, you know, that there was a life in parkour, and that they were going to chase it, and I'll just put in that time and that effort to really becoming really geniuses in their own right,
Cool.
Yeah.
and just seeing stuff and doing things, and and developing themselves in that way. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But yeah, other than that, yeah, it's such a hard thing because you're just like, you have this huge list of people, and you're just like, which
Who
ones
is
really,
it? Who is it? Yeah. I
which
get
ones
like
are
that.
really pulling, like which
Yeah.
ones am I like sieving up to the top here? Because like ultimately, you know, everybody that I'm following is really, like I wouldn't otherwise follow them if it wasn't
I get
that
it.
I enjoyed watching their movement. It's something that I definitely had to tailor down, and you know, make a conscious decision that I needed to, you know, put my like those like high school friends into a different Instagram account, just so that, you know, I'm still following them, I still
I've done
catching up
that.
with that.
Yeah.
But then, you know, my parkour account, I'm there for movement content. Like
Yeah.
if that it's there for me to get exposed to all this stuff. But yeah, I'm just thinking about one last to throw up on that list, because again, if it was more extensive, I'd just be throwing out names left, right, and center. But um, actually, I'm gonna throw on Johan Leroux to
Oh,
that
yeah.
list. He was the damn it. Okay, well, can I do two on this?
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. All right, so yeah, Johan um, was the first like big international athlete to come through when I was still pretty young in the sport,
Yeah.
and he stuck around for like a good month in Calgary, and then ended
Oh,
up
really?
shooting a video with
Oh,
Josh
okay.
Brower, who would be the other person that I'd put on this list
Oh,
of inspiring
awesome.
athletes, because he was like, Josh Brower was definitely a mentor to me growing up in the community, because I mean, he's just such a fun guy.
Yeah.
And you know, he definitely thought that we were just a bunch of like shitheads, but at the same time, he just like he would definitely, you know, take some time to kind of help us, and you know, train with us. It was because of him that Jovi even ended up getting into the sport, because he was in on uh, gymnastics, and
Oh, yeah.
Josh Bauer was a coach in gymnastics, and was just like, yeah, told Jovi's mom, was just like, yeah, like he's probably not great for gymnastics, but like he would be perfect for parkour.
That's
Yeah.
So he ended up just doing like private lessons for gratis for him, and then yeah, he stuck around, and just like it. like we just came out with a video with Jovi and Josh, and they like for some reason their movement is always just so unique. Like sometimes you're just watching a line and you're just like, oh yeah, I know what's gonna happen here. Just the way he's setting up, yeah,
Right,
this is
yeah.
what's gonna happen. But for Josh and Jovi, Jovi specifically, he'll be in a position and then do something completely different than what you would otherwise expect out of that position. And even like people with like Josh Malone, like doesn't quite have that same type of style. So I find that like Joey has a very distinct signature with his
Right.
movement. And
Yeah.
yeah, so Johan and Josh Brower, for sure. Definitely
We've once
inspired.
said that. We've once said on the show, like if you watch someone's silhouette, you can tell who that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that idea though, and that's something that Johan was talking about. Is just like it's like it's hard to show yourself in parkour. So I got this tail on. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much.
It's just
I
like
got
gotta
these
be a
ears or
signature.
something, wings or
Because like once you're in like a YouTube compilation, then it's just
Yeah.
like you're kind of lost in the monotony of people are just watching the movement, they're not watching you.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
having some sort of signature that it's just like this is him.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
I like it.
I don't know, just a thought there, but
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
but
think about
not
that.
to say that like bring the tail back. I'm just saying like
Yeah.
it was something that was distinct about him.
Maybe even dress up again.
Ooh, gotta get. Yeah.
All right. We are like over the 2 hour mark here, so I'm gonna wrap this up here. Thanks, Mike, for coming on. It's been really
Yes.
awesome talking to you.
Thanks,
I appreciate
Mike.
you doing this.
You really opened my eyes in so many different things. Thanks so much.
No, I'm so glad that you guys had me on, and it was really fun. Thank you.
You've got like tenure in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, a decade at this point.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yeah. Okay, well
Sweet.
then, listeners, listeners or YouTube watchers, whatever. Thanks for tuning in and like this and oh yeah, actually, if you want to follow Mike, where can they find you at?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at podi.maiku, and you can follow the team at PodiBoys.com. We do bi-weekly podcasts, just talk show style, just shooting the shit with the boys.
Awesome.
I can't wait to
All
listen.
right. Well, thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what you put out next.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.